For the rest of this video series, I'm going to be working on a screen as I demonstrate and explain the different development principles and practices that you're going to have to employ when you are working on thorium. This is the screen that I've chosen to work on. It's called the CRM-114, or the fighter control. At the flight director's command, every computer on the bridge turns into a fighter control screen for automated fighters, or remote control fighters. Find it helpful to outline some of the features that we're going to be working on to help us understand how to construct this feature in thorium. So we can take a look at this screenshot that was on the GitHub issue. We can see that it has the ship moving around. It's controlled by a joystick. It has one phaser bank that can be charged, and it has torpedoes that can be loaded and unloaded. It looks like this has a ready area for the torpedoes and a loaded area. And it looks like each of the areas can hold 5 torpedoes. While this isn't a feature that's included here, I kind of like to mix things up and make things a little bit better, so I think it'd be really cool if it were possible to reload the torpedoes when the Viper is docked. That means that we need to be able to dock the Viper, and it's going to have 2 screens. One is going to be the combat view, which is this view, and then, in fact, let me redo this really quick. And then the docked view. And the docked view will allow them to recharge the shields, repair, reload the torpedoes, so they can add additional torpedoes to the Viper. One thing that we need to consider is making it so that this is interesting and challenging. They can't just immediately dock it and then do whatever and then let it out again. So in order to add to that drama, there's going to be a delay when docking. And during that delay, the enemies will be able to continue firing at the Viper and could destroy it if it's in the process of docking. And will disable controls when it's docking, because it's going to be an automated docking process. Okay, let's see. It needs to have hull integrity and shields can be raised or lowered. Targeting grid. Fighter being able to move around is actually part of the targeting grid. And then there will be any number of enemies. One thing that isn't apparent is the ability to ram other ships, to ram these targets. So we'll make it so that if the fighter is in close proximity, it shows a ramming warning, and if the fighter is on top of enemy, both explode. So that gives you the ability to use your fighter for more interesting purposes. Another thing that isn't included here but could be interesting is a self-destruct, which does a damage radius. So it explodes out a little bit further. From here, I think that's all that I can see right now that we might want to do on this screen. One other thing that's very important to consider is the core computer. So let's take a look at the core screenshot for these controls. This right here is the main core from these older controls, and there's actually only one spot where CRM is referenced, and that's right here. You can't see it, but you have the ability to choose what icon is used for the targets. You can choose whether or not the targets attack, and then whether or not the CRM is even allowed, and the password that they use to activate or deactivate the CRM. That's it. Fortunately, there was another set of controls that was developed after these controls that added to the capabilities of the CRM. So let's take a look at those, and we can use that to gain some inspiration. So we can see here that it has an option to change what stations are in the CRM, can use the CRM. So we can activate multiple stations at the same time and all of them switch onto the CRM, or we can activate one at a time, or any other number of things. We can choose a different quadrant, a specific quadrant, so these stations can be turned on all together at once, but none of the rest of them, and then these ones, etc. We can see that there's a place to see the Viper status, so you can see if it's been destroyed, if it's currently docked, its shield level, its hull level, how many torpedoes it has, and how many ships it's destroyed. So that actually is a very interesting thing there. You can have like a little leaderboard here. Up here we can see the targets. It looks like it gives you the ability to add multiple targets, so you can add the number, choose which quadrant that particular target is in. So I guess that lines up with the quadrant that the station is in. Whether or not it moves, its size, its speed, its strength. So this is probably like a number of hit points, and then the icon that it uses. We have some stats up here for the total number of Vipers and the total targets. It looks like this is how many are active and how many are total. And then there are some adjustments like the enemy difficulty, which could translate to any number of factors, maybe how often the enemy fires. And then the Viper handicap, maybe how much damage the Viper's weapons do. One thing that isn't included here is making it so that targets cannot shoot, and then the ability to enable or disable the CRM altogether. And then buttons to activate the CRM, which turns it on for all of the stations, or exit the CRM, which turns it off. There's one more screen that we need to determine the features for, and that's the control screen. This screen is going to be active on one of the stations, or maybe not, but... And what it will allow them to do is select which stations will be activated when the CRM is activated, and actually activate it themselves instead of having the flight director activate it for them. What this screen needs is the ability to see the stations on the ship and select the stations. It looks like they need to be able to adjust the power in the CRM-114. It looks like there's a password and an activate button.